Welcome to my little trainings, my little mini series where I invite my go-to experts and the super awesome people that are in my tribe. My name is Lindsay Burden and I'm an intuitive business coach, and I'm here to inspire and empower women to find their path to a six-figure business and life, which is why I am super happy today to introduce you to Sue Thomas, because we are going to be delving deep, Sue, aren't we, in the truth about sugar. But yeah, we are. But before we do that, I just wanted to introduce you really. So I've got a few notes. So you've been in the wellness industry for nearly 20 years. And I guess what you're telling me from your notes is that you got really frustrated by the confused messaging that was coming out. And that's what really, would you say that that's what made you start your business and go in the direction that you have?
I think my business grew organically because when I started in the wellness industry was when I became a mum. So it worked for me to kind of work my business as a personal trainer then around my children. But the more I worked with women, and I only worked with women, the more I realized that there were so many confused messages around counting calories, around fat, around sugar, about what was going to allow us to manage our weight, what was going to allow us to manage our hormones, etc., etc. And there were so many confused messages. And I started initially with just coaching clients one-to-one to help them really understand what changes, simple changes they could make that would make a massive difference to their long-term well-being. And as a result of that, then that just grew, and now I run group programs for lots of women who want to understand how they can make a change. And that change always starts with sugar and insulin, blood sugar balance, glucose balance in the body.
You said a word a couple of times then, allow. And, you know, what will allow us. And then when you came back to what you do, you used the word understand. And that's a huge difference, isn't it, between what we consume, what we're reading, what we're, you know, going to different, I'm being very careful not to name anything, but different ways that we can allow ourselves to live a healthier life. But what you came back to was understanding. So talk to me a little bit more about that understanding. And in particular, obviously, you concentrate on sugar. And I've seen you speak many times, and I never get bored of hearing about sugar. So tell us some more about that.
Okay, so we've had media messages fed to us for years. This comes from, in the 1960s, a study was done around, Ansel Keys did this study around fat, and they fed animal fat to rabbits. And they surmised that in doing so, it started to block their arteries and increase their cholesterol. This was in rabbits. Rabbits only eat vegetables. They don't eat animal fat. So the whole study was skewed. But as a result of that, the media took on board that it was fat that gave us heart disease, that made us fat, that was a problem for us. And really, as we have, I want to say developed, as we've, as society has moved forward over the last 50, 60 years, and the food industry has become more and more powerful, what they have done is they've taken that whole fat message, and they've said, what you need to do is be low fat, because low fat is the thing that's going to help you manage your heart disease. It's going to help you manage your weight. It's going to help you manage your hormones, etc., etc. But in reality, fat is really important, really important. It's what connects the synapses in our brain. It's what helps to form the hormones the raw materials for the hormones in our body. It doesn't have a relationship with insulin, so it helps to keep our blood sugars balanced. But only fat in the form of seeds, nuts, avocado, oily fish, good fats, basically. If you're getting a lot of fats in the form of trans fats, which are in all the processed foods that are produced these days, they are bad for you. But what usually is in the processed food is lots of hidden sugar. Okay, so the combination of sugar and fat together is what's bad for you. And when you're consuming a diet high in processed foods, or a diet that's high in sugar, that will have an impact on your body's ability to be able to manage your cholesterol levels. It will lay plaque down in your arteries. It will cause you to hold on to weight because your insulin is going up and down and up and down.
Yeah.
It will impact your hormones. It will impact your ability to be able to sleep. So in reality, what we've been fed for the last 50, 60 years around fat is a nonsense, because actually the reality is that it's sugar that is making us an unwell nation, not fat. Fat, good quality fat, is not going to give you heart disease. It's not going to cause your cholesterol to rise. It's not going to have an impact on your long-term well-being. What's going to cause over obesity, heart disease, high cholesterol, dementia, are the processed foods that we're now being fed with lots of trans fats in and lots of sugar in. So that is where we are really with this situation. There's still this belief that low fat is the way to go. If you take out fat from a product, you have to add something else in, otherwise it's got no flavor, and so they add sugar. Yeah. So all our low fat products have got sugar buried in them. And what sugar does to us is it causes a release of insulin from our pancreas. And that release of insulin, if it rises too high in the system, starts to have a huge impact right across the body. It will impact our energy levels, first of all. It will impact our mental clarity. It'll impact our sleep. It'll impact our hormones. It'll impact our cholesterol level because it compromises our liver's ability to be able to function. Sugar and insulin are far more important for helping us manage the health crisis that we have in the 21st century than any issue around fat is. Yet we're still obsessed with counting calories and focusing on not consuming too much fat.
There were a couple of things, there were two words I wrote down actually that came to me. It's the second word I want to touch on. When we talk about sugars, I remember having sugar in my tea and coffee. I mean, I'm going back years and years and years. And I remember it was almost like you had to relearn to like a cup of tea without sugar. Yeah. And when you were talking then, I was thinking, we're almost in this place, aren't we, where, alcohol, smoking, sugar, they're all very addictive behaviors, and they all, they tend to be, it's about comfort, it's about habit. And I just wonder where you sat, because I did actually write down the word. Sugar's addictive, and then it becomes really hard to change our habit. And then if it's in everything, it feels like it's almost impossible to do. So I guess I'm asking you where you sit on that, because to me it sounds like it's absolutely addictive, and it's a problem. So
sugar is as addictive as alcohol and tobacco. Tobacco and alcohol are regulated. Sugar is not. So that is the first issue we've got, in that we can't control anyone's, or it's not that we can control anyone's consumption, because we can't, but it's not regulated in the same way. We should have the same warnings on processed food as we have on cigarettes, basically, because it's that harmful to our long-term health. And sugar is hidden in so many places that it is really hard to take back control. So there's some really simple things you can do to help yourself avoid the sugar. So the first thing is, don't go low fat, because if you go low fat, it's going to have hidden sugars. So, we buy low fat yogurts. Well, let's actually buy full fat yogurt that doesn't have any added sugar, and we put some fruit on it to make it a fruity yogurt. That is better for us, and as simple as much better than buying a low fat yogurt. You'll stay fuller for longer if you have a full fat yogurt with some fruit on, because it'll keep your blood sugars really nicely balanced. You'll be taking on board all those really good fats that are really helpful for hormone balance, don't have a relationship with insulin, so don't cause an insulin spike, and you'll feel much more sated throughout the course of the day. Eating that low-fat yogurt after your lunch, for example, the first thing it's going to do is spike your blood sugars, and then they're going to crash. And that's why you have the 3 p.m. slump, because as your blood sugars crash and you can't focus on anything, you then want to reach for some other form of sugar, some other form of glucose, because the brain functions on glucose, so it needs sugar to exist. But it's making a choice around what glucose you are consuming. So we've got good quality carbohydrates like reds, greens, oranges, all the vegetables, all the fruit, etc. They're all really good for us. But we've also got complex carbs, which is a misnomer in itself because they're still processed carbs, and white carbs in the form of cakes and biscuits and stuff. So our complex carbs are bread and pasta, etc., etc. But all of that group, the beige and the white carbs, still cause a blood sugar spike and still cause a blood sugar crash. So we've been fed, again, a message for years that the complex carbs will keep us full. Arguably, I would say they probably won't. You'll still be hungry within 2 to 3 hours. You'll still want to snack. And so the food industry then provides you with their low-calorie snack bars full of sugar again that you can then snack on in 3 hours' time, and all that's going on throughout the course of the day is your blood sugars are on a roller coaster. As insulin rises in your system, the higher the insulin, the more detrimental it is to your health. So the more harmful it can be to your health, the more it starts to instigate heart disease, high cholesterol, weight around the middle, obesity, dementia. All of these things are linked to high levels of insulin in the body, not high levels of fat in the body. I think I'm going off on a tangent again. I'm coming back to fat and sugar.
But it's, Sue, it's absolutely fascinating, and you explain it in a way that is easier to understand. And I think that's part of the problem for so many of us, and I count myself in that, is that we just get confused, and it goes back to the media messaging, and it goes back to what we're being told. And I literally just wrote down full fat yogurt because I naturally buy low fat, and I'm like, why do I do that? But in my head, so I was thinking, I'm not sure, apart from the Greek yogurt that I personally eat, then the rest of the house isn't allowed it, which is full fat. I'm like, I'm not even sure where the full fat stuff is.
No,
but there's a problem in itself as well.
Totally. So you're better off buying natural yogurt and putting full fat natural yogurt, because those are the ones that you can get full fat, and putting your own fruit in it and making your own, just whizzing up a little bit of some strawberries or some blueberries or something and just stirring it through. That's much better for you than trying to buy a full fat blueberry yogurt, for example, that probably doesn't exist on the shelf. This is a really important point as well, because reading food labels, we look at the food labels, and what we automatically look for are the calorie content and the fat content. So that's where our eyes go to. We don't ever look at the sugars, but anything more than, sorry, there's a fly buzzing around my head, anything more than 6 grams of sugar per 100 grams is going to cause an insulin spike, which actually, when you look at most products, they're about 30 grams. So they hide the sugars under per portion. So it doesn't look like there's so much sugar in there. But if you worked it out, if you 3 times that, or 2 times it, you would see there's probably 23 grams of sugar in there in something. So they hide it and make it look like there's not much sugar in there. Say like 7 grams of sugar per portion. But in reality, per 100 grams, it's a huge amount of sugar, and it's going to cause a blood sugar spike and then a blood sugar crash. But because the media, again, only concentrates on calories and only concentrates on fats, that's where our eyes go to when we're reading a label.
Since meeting you, I'm more likely to look at the sugar one, but that's only really since meeting you. And I used to look at the fat content. I have to admit, I don't really look at labels. And I'm just wondering, so they changed our label system, didn't they? They gave us a colour code.
Yeah.
Do you think it makes any difference?
No.
I just wondered.
They're very clever at mistruing. That's not the right word. What's the word? Not mislaying. They're misconstruing the information. So they make it look like there's less in there because they go per portion rather than per 100 grams. And it's per 100 grams that you need to understand. So they might give sugars an orange label per portion because there's what looks like less sugars in there, but actually if you extrapolate it and work it out per 100 grams, it would be sort of in the purple zone, not even just in the red zone.
It's a bit of a worry. I think what I love about talking to you, Sue, is you really do help us understand that. I mean, for me, talking to you is like, if we could just get our heads around the sugars, we'd actually, I mean, would I be right in saying, because you mentioned some of the things at the beginning, if we could get a handle on sugar, would we sleep better? would we perhaps even start to be able to regulate our weight? I'm being careful of what I say there, but regulate our weight better. Would we start to see some real health benefits? And how quickly does that happen for people?
Yeah, so when insulin is on a blood sugar roller coaster, when it peaks in the system, it blocks the production of a hormone called leptin, which is a hormone that helps us to feel full. But it also encourages the production of a hormone called ghrelin, which is a hormone that tells us we're hungry. So when insulin is high in the system, we inevitably end up eating more than we realize. Also, insulin interferes with the release of growth hormone and melatonin, which are two hormones that we need to help us go into a deep quality sleep. And if we don't get a deep quality sleep, if we have restless sleep, our blood sugars don't reset. So often we'll wake the next day feeling hungry. So we've got sleep as an issue. We've got hormones as well as an issue in terms of the impact that the sugar puts on the liver, because the liver has to process the sugar. That no other organ in the body can process the sugar. So it's the liver that does that. Now, the liver's role in the body to create the hormones that we need, say for menopause, as our hormones change, or just for a general menstrual cycle. The liver needs to be able to create the raw materials for those hormones. If it's constantly processing sugar, it devalues or downgrades the production of the raw materials for hormones. So it impacts our hormone balance. So it's impacting our sleep, it's impacting our hormones, it's causing us to be hungry more often. When sugar is high in the system, it's a stress on the body, and that also releases a hormone called cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And those two hormones together prevent the burning of fat for fuel. So we can't ever manage our weight. If you've been someone who's been trying to diet for years and following a really low calorie diet, but nothing is shifting, that is because insulin is high, cortisol is high, stress is high in your body, and your body won't ever give up fat for fuel. So it's really hard to manage your weight effectively as well when your insulin is doing this through the course of the day. So if you can get your insulin to do this through the course of the day, all of a sudden you'll start producing leptin, which tells you you're full, so you're not snacking anywhere near as much. Leptin is also really important for instigating the burning of fat for fuel. So you become what we call metabolically flexible. You start to access some of your fat reserves for energy. Insulin isn't high in the system, so you can release growth hormone and melatonin, so you can get a better night's sleep. You can go into a deeper quality sleep, and in that quality sleep, the body will heal and repair itself. Your insulin levels will reset. If the liver's not processing sugars all the time, it can then start to prioritize the management of hormones more effectively, so it can bring our menopause symptoms under control, etc., etc. Life becomes so much nicer when our blood sugars are balanced. We feel better in ourselves, we've got more confidence, we've got more mental clarity, we can be more productive every day because we're not having these constant kind of peaks and troughs. We can get more done in business when our blood sugars are balanced. And we just feel so much more confident and much more capable of doing. Our mood improves, so many things improve when our insulin is constant. Now, it takes about 10 to 14 days to balance your blood sugars. Some women take slightly longer, but on average, it's about 10 to 14 days. Now, one of the reasons why most women give up on day 3 or 4 of a new health regime is because the balancing of the blood sugars is too hard. It makes you feel slightly tired or quite tired. It makes you feel headachy. It makes you feel lethargic. You don't feel great. And all that ends up happening is you crave some sugar because you want to kind of reboost your energy. And so many women will start Monday morning, this is it, I'm on a health kick, and by Thursday have given up because it feels too hard. But if you can push through that and get out the other side about day 10, day 11, you will start to have tons of energy, you'll be sleeping better, you'll be feeling so much more confident in yourself, getting done every single day, just having a greater love for life again, basically.
It's so interesting because I've spoken to people before that we know mutually from networking groups, and they would say, I don't know how she manages to do everything. So she just seems to get all this stuff done. This is why you get this stuff done, because your body is working at optimal level. You're getting great sleep and you're more productive. And your evidence of why it works.
It really does.
I wrote 10 to 14 days down and thought, well, that doesn't sound too bad. So it was surprising to hear, but the 3 to 4 days is when people, kind of give up. But I guess also that's a mental thing, that you're experiencing all the things you don't want.
Yeah. And the chimp brain's kicking in and going, oh, it's all right, go and have a little bit of sugar, it'll be fine. Just have a square of dark chocolate, or, have the leftover dessert that your child didn't eat at tea time, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
It's fine, it won't make any difference, just this once. But again, because we count calories, we build that into our calorie quota for the day and think, oh, I haven't gone over my calorie amount, even though I've had this little snack. But what we haven't taken into consideration is the fact that it's spiked our blood sugars, that's crashed again. And then we've actually ended up eating more through the rest of the day, because as we go into that crash, we end up eating more glucose.
And I've definitely, I'm very fortunate that I stay pretty much where I'm at. That doesn't mean to say that I don't have hormonal problems. And I want to come back to the menopause because that was quite interesting. But over the years, so many of my friends have been calorie counting and will save all their calories. I mean, we are going back a few years. I mean, I haven't had a drink for 9 years, so we are going back quite a few, but they save all their calories and then drink them all at the weekend and finish the night with a great big kebab. So it's madness, this whole calorie counting, because you make it work for you without recognizing that it's not helping you. So I think the whole sugar thing just suddenly makes it all so much easier for us.
It's just a chain, a ball and chain around your neck, counting calories all the time, because you become obsessed with food, and then your relationship with food deteriorates. And it's so simple. It's so simple. You just understand where the sugar is hidden and what it does to you, and how you can take back control to avoid that sugar as much as possible. You can free yourself of all of these shackles that have been holding on to women throughout our life, basically, because of the way the media has portrayed A, fat, and B, calories, and how you're supposed to manage your weight. But it's a nonsense. It's a complete nonsense. You could live a happy, fulfilled life at the right weight if all you do is remove sugar. And don't get me wrong, I'm not an angel. I will say I'm 90% sugar free. I do enjoy some dark chocolate. I will eat a little bit of nice ice cream at the weekend, that kind of thing. So I do keep a balance, but during the week my focus is very much about nourishing my body, making sure I'm where I need to be to keep my business moving forward, to keep my energy levels high, to make sure I'm sleeping every night, and to keep my weight where I want it to be. I don't want to be that person that goes through menopause and comes out the other side 2 stone heavier because it's just crept on gradually. I want to be the person that is still in control of my weight when I'm in my 60s.
There were 2 things actually. There was a word I wrote down ages ago, and you've just mentioned it again, balance. But I just want to come back to this hormones. I think what's been most fascinating for me talking to you today, Sue, is how much you have talked about hormones. And even before you mentioned the word menopause, I'd written it down.
Okay.
And I think particularly for women, it starts, that hormonal change starts at such a young age.
Yeah.
And it sort of, it feels like, we go through this hormonal change, we have to live with our hormones, and then we get to the other end and suddenly it all changes again. But it sounds to me like that addressing the sugar issue really could make a very positive impact on that, like you said, the mental cycle or menopause. And just from looking at sugar,
all of my clients that I work with that are struggling with their menopause symptoms, if we take out sugar from the diet, it reduces their symptoms massively. Hot flushes, night sweats, poor sleep, all of the symptoms, low mood, all of these start to disappear because everything comes from the liver. The liver is one of the most important organs in the body. And our menopause symptoms all come from the liver being what we call sluggish, basically. And in 21st century life, many women have a very sluggish liver because they don't understand how to look after it. And it's really simple to look after your liver. Start with lemon water first thing in the morning, half a lemon squeezed into warm water, which is to keep the liver flushing through. Try to focus on 5 out of 7 days being alcohol free, and keep your caffeine down to 1 or 2 cups a day. Those are the simplest things you can do to support your liver. When your liver is working properly, it can do the jobs that it needs to do. It can prioritize hormones. It's not stressing all the time about metabolizing the sugar and working out where it's going to send the sugar and turning it into fats to store it and all that kind of thing. It's thinking it's got no worries around sugar. So it's going, great, I can now focus on the hormone balancing that I need to focus on for this stage in my life. And if you look at the kind of growth in menopause symptoms and how so many more women now are struggling with menopause, and I know we're talking about it more than we used to, but if you go back 60, 70 years, yes, our mothers had menopause symptoms, but nothing like we're experiencing today in 21st century life. And that is because for years, women have been eating foods that are full of sugar without even realizing. And 60, 70 years ago, we didn't have those sugars in our diet. And so here we are in 21st century life in 2022, so much exposure to sugar without even realizing it. And that's what's causing this massive growth in menopause symptoms. And yet we have this sticking plaster approach of HRT. And don't get me wrong, I'm not dismissing HRT because it's important for some women, but this sticking plaster of HRT to try and make these symptoms go away. But the simplest way, you can get rid of those symptoms in 2 weeks by just reducing and cutting out sugar from your diet. You really can. When I take women through my 7-day sugar-free challenge, they will come to the end. A lot of women will report that they're sleeping better, that they're not having the night sweats, that their hot flushes have reduced over the course of the week. And that's just in 7 days, that their mood is better. In just 7 days, you can make a huge difference to your, you can take control and make a huge difference to your personal well-being. A lot of women will say to me, but how do I ever give up sugar though? Where do I even start? And again, within that 7-day sugar-free challenge, I'll teach women how to do that. But the first thing to do is to think about, what am I eating for breakfast? What's the first thing that I'm eating in the morning? Because whatever it is I'm eating in the morning is going to have an impact on my blood sugars. If I'm eating a carbohydrate-based breakfast, that's going to spike my blood sugars. If I'm eating a protein-based breakfast, that's going to keep my blood sugars really well balanced. And when you can work out what works for you in terms of the right breakfast to keep your blood sugars balanced through the course of the morning, and you'll know if your blood sugars are balanced, you'll be able to go from breakfast to lunch without eating anything and not even thinking about it. If your blood sugars aren't balanced by 10:30, you'll be going, I think I'll have a cup of coffee and a couple of digestive biscuits or something along those lines. So that is a spike and a crash of blood sugars. And that just gets bigger as the day goes on then. So it's about going, what am I eating for breakfast? And is it keeping me going from breakfast till lunch? Because if it is, it's keeping my blood sugars balanced. There's no one size fits all when it comes to blood sugar balance. You have to work out what's working for you and what doesn't work for you. Everybody is different. But if you can get that breakfast right, you can unlock the energy and the vitality for the rest of the day, believe me.
There was something I just wanted to ask you, and because you were talking about menopause and sort of, our mothers were not, and our grandmothers did not have the same symptoms that we now experience in menopause. Do you think there is an accumulative effect, or is there an accumulative effect of sugar in our bodies?
Totally, because
I had a feeling you might say yes.
The liver is the only place that can process the sugar. So it ends up, particularly things like high fructose corn syrup, the body can't do anything with that. And that's in so many processed products. When we take that on board, so if we're eating a cake, for example, that's got a shelf life of 3 months, that will have lots of trans fats in it and lots of high fructose corn syrup. Cheaper products on the shelf with long lifespans will have the corn syrups and the trans fats in to keep them shelf stable. And the body can't do anything with that high fructose corn syrup. So the liver has to process it and store it, and it just gets stored in the liver. So that cumulative effect over the years, the more and more processed foods we eat, the more and more sugars we get exposed to. And sugars are hidden in so many places as well. High fructose corn syrup is a good example, but there's so many other names for sugar now that we might not even think of. And I was talking to someone the other day, and she said, I don't have any sugar in my diet now. And I said, well, talk me through your diet today. She said, well, I don't have any sugar in my tea. But then she was going out for coffee and having a vanilla latte with a slice of cake. And I was like, but I think that's sugar, don't you? Well, I suppose so. So we just, over time, the more we're exposed to sugar, the more sugars we have in our diet, and it has increased massively in the last 30 years as the processed food industry has grown. The more sluggish our liver becomes, and the more difficult it becomes to cope with menopause symptoms.
So we are a product of our own, our own problem, really, aren't we?
As much we can take back control. We can really take back control.
Which is what I wrote some notes earlier because I thought it would give us a really good lead in to talk a little bit more about your 7-day sugar-free challenge. But it is about taking back control. Excuse me. Before I do that, I wrote that you gave us 3 great things earlier, and that was start your day with lemon water, drink less caffeine, and reduce your alcohol intake. And if anyone's wondering if that really works, I'm a massive coffee drinker. For the last few days, because it's so hot, I cannot drink coffee until late in the evening. I've got so much energy. So Sue does know what she's talking about. It's absolutely true. And that started with your 4th tip, really, was, look at your breakfast.
Yeah.
But if you really want to take back control of your body, of your sleep, of your life, and live your most incredible life, people really need to sign up, don't they, for your 7-day sugar-free challenge, which I believe starts on the 19th of September. Am I right?
It does. Yes, it does.
Tell us more.
And during that week, we have each day there's a little mini challenge to help you move towards that sort of sugar-free, 90% sugar-free life. So simple challenges that are not complicated, but will help to keep you focused and help keep you accountable. We have a very busy Facebook group, so everybody's supporting everybody else. So nothing like a community behind you to ensure that you achieve success. I do 2 workshops during the course of the week, live into the Facebook group, around what the diet industry won't tell you, and also about the impact of insulin in your system. So you really start to learn and grow and understand how sugar is impacting you and the actions you can take to reduce your sugar consumption. We have a recipe collection, a meal planning session, a meal planning document and stuff. So lots of ways to get organised. And the group opens on the Friday before we start on the Monday the 19th. So there's lots of time over the weekend to ask questions and get organised so that you're kind of focused for success. But really, it's not complicated. You don't have to cook special meals if you don't want to. It is all about just saying, right, where is the sugar in my diet and how can I remove it? If I'm having those 2 digestive biscuits in the morning, I need to take those out. What else can I have? And I'll give you solutions to that. We'll focus on breakfast and getting breakfast right to keep your blood sugars balanced. We'll focus on drinking more water, etc., etc. And everybody's in the same place, starting from a place of I don't want to say a major sugar addiction, but a lot of women will come to it with a major sugar addiction, and the thought of it frightens them. Going through the 7 days without sugar frightens them. But because they have this community behind them and this support behind them, they surprise themselves in what they can achieve in that 7 days. There's always prizes to be won through the course of the week. So it's a really interactive week, and I just love running it. I really love running it. And lots of women will come away with 5-6 pounds weight loss. They'll be,
wow.
And really, I mean, some of that will be water retention that the body's holding on to as a result of the liver not working properly, but also there will be some fat burning going on there. They'll be sleeping better. They'll feel in a better mood at the end of it. They'll feel like the bloating has gone and that kind of thing. So yeah, really lots of great results that come from that 7 days. And I just love running it. And it's only £10 to be part of for 7 days.
A couple of questions about it. It's for women only, am I right?
Yes, it is.
Do they have to be a certain age? Because we've talked a lot about menopause. Is it open to all women?
Yeah, it's open to all women. And what I would encourage you to do is get your husbands or partners or what have you to do it as well with you, but they don't come into the group. And the only reason for that is the group is so focused around understanding hormones, understanding what affects females and us as the caregivers, if you like. So it's orientated towards the women, and I don't think the group would be as open and honest if they felt their partners were in there or what have you. So, but there's no reason why you can't get your partner to do it alongside you.
Now, if somebody wanted to sign up, and I obviously will be sharing the links, but if somebody wanted to sign up, what's the quickest way for them to find a link?
Easiest way is to go to my website, suethomaswellbeing.co.uk, and there is a banner across the top that says sign up for my 7-day sugar-free challenge. Click that and it will take you through to the page.
Perfect.
So it'll be the first thing you see when you open the page.
You can't miss it.
You can't.
Sue, I absolutely love talking to you. Apart from anything, you always open my mind to things. And what I love is there's always these tiny little nuggets, like this full fat yogurt malarkey that goes on in my house. And I always take away tiny little things. And I think sometimes it is the tiny little things that we can do that can make such a big impact. But thank you so much for really opening my eyes again to I was going to say the power of sugar, but there is so much power to sugar, and it's about taking back that power for ourselves to really live our most incredible lives. And that's what, I'm very much about taking all my clients on a journey so that they can live their most incredible life. And I want them to be able to do that, in the best shape possible, which is why I always love talking to you. And I always love sharing these videos with my audience because they're just so powerful, and you just speak eloquently and say it as it is, and that's really very, very refreshing. There is no hidden,
no, there's no hidden agenda. It's just this is me. I am a menopausal woman as well, but I'm managing it by not having the sugar 90% of the time.
And I love that you really clarify that. It's 90% of the time.
It's about being able to have that balance, and that's the most important thing. For all of my programs that I run, there is always a level of balance, because you have to be real. There are going to be times when you go out for meals and you want to have a dessert. There are going to be times when you take your grandchild and they have an ice cream and you want it too. There are going to be times when that happens, but it's just about understanding how often can I allow that to happen without impacting my health.
So, as always, it's fabulous talking to you, and that 7-day sugar-free challenge, the 19th of September, absolutely a must. I might join you this time around because I'm bound to learn some more things.
Lovely to have you, and thank you for having me, Lindsay.
You're welcome. And just if anyone has missed it on the 19th of September, this is something that you run quite regularly, so highly recommend some shape or form getting on that website and getting on your mailing list so that they know when the next one is running.
Yeah, I also have a free ebook, Truth About Sugar, so you can download that and that will get you on my mailing list, and then I can tell you in future when there are other challenges.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sue Thomas Wellbeing. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, and bringing us the real truth. So thank you so much for doing that.